At Chicago Union Station, signal engineer Rachel Hayes screamed, "Track 7 signal is lying. Don't send out the Midnight Hudson Express." Conductor Ethan Cole laughed and said, "You watch the screens, I drive the train." At 11:47 p.m., the train entered Rocky Mountain Tunnel. 22 minutes later, the rails broke, and the cab recorder revealed the truth that turned the railroad chief's face white. The train signal that lied. At 11:47 p.m., the Midnight Hudson Express entered Rocky Mountain Tunnel with a green signal on the screen. But Rachel Hayes already knew the truth. The signal was lying. And 22 minutes later, when the rails screamed, the lights died and 214 passengers were trapped inside the mountain, the cab recorder captured one sentence that destroyed the most powerful man in the railroad. 6 hours earlier, Chicago Union Station was glowing under cold December rain. Rachel Hayes stood inside the Central Rail control room, one hand around a coffee she had forgotten to drink, the other moving across a wall of monitors. She was 32, a senior signal engineer, and the kind of woman people called too quiet because they never understood that quiet people notice everything. At 9:18 p.m., Track 7 turned green for the Midnight Hudson Express. The train was scheduled for Denver. Families were boarding. Business travelers were settling into sleeper cars. A 7-year-old boy named Mason Cooper pressed his face to the glass and told his mother, "I'm going to stay awake until the mountains." Rachel smiled when she saw him on the platform camera. Then her smile disappeared. The signal on Track 7 was clear. But the relay response was late by 0.8 seconds. Most people would never care about less than 1 second. Rachel did. She opened the tunnel diagnostics for Rocky Mountain Tunnel. The temperature sensor showed normal. The track pressure sensor showed stable. The maintenance report showed cleared. Too perfect. Rachel froze. The tunnel heat sensor had repeated the exact same number for 43 minutes. That did not mean the tunnel was safe. It meant the data was frozen. Then she checked the maintenance log. One report had been edited at 8:13 p.m. Original status: cracked rail joint near West Bend. Immediate hold recommended. New status: cleared for passenger traffic. Rachel's throat tightened. She grabbed the dispatch mic. "Hold train 918. Do not release the Midnight Hudson Express from Track 7. In the cab, conductor Ethan Cole lifted his radio and laughed. "Rachel, we're already behind schedule." "I'm not talking about schedule. I'm talking about a compromised rail joint inside Rocky Mountain Tunnel." Ethan looked up toward the platform camera and smirked. "Screens you watch, Rachel. Trains I run." A few crew members laughed behind him. Rachel didn't blink. "Ethan, listen to me. That signal is false. Signal is green. The signal is lying." Then Railroad Chief Walter Barlow came on the line. His voice was calm, polished, and cold. "Ms. Hayes, on what authority are you stopping a passenger train?" "On the authority of a changed maintenance report, frozen tunnel data, and a relay delay that should not exist." Pause. Then Barlow said, "That report was cleared." "No, sir. It was changed." His voice dropped. "Do not create panic over a screen glitch." Rachel stared through the glass as the Midnight Hudson Express began to move. She whispered, "That is not a glitch. Now answer this honestly. If you were Rachel and your boss, your coworkers, and the conductor all told you to stay quiet, would you still risk your job to stop that train?" The train pulled out of Chicago Union Station at 9:31 p.m. Rachel did not leave her desk. She opened backup files. She copied timestamps. She saved camera footage. She printed the original maintenance alert before someone could erase it again. Then she found the worst detail. The emergency brake grid inside Rocky Mountain Tunnel had been locked behind supervisor restriction. Only one office had that power. Walter Barlow's. Rachel slowly looked toward his empty office. That was when she understood. This was not confusion. This was a cover-up. The Midnight Hudson Express pushed west through the night, cutting through rain, then snow, then black mountain country. Inside car 4, Mason finally fell asleep under a blue blanket. In the dining car, a waitress named Laura Jenkins poured coffee for a retired judge named Helen Morris. In the cab, Ethan's confidence lasted until 11:39 p.m. That was when the first vibration came. A low tremor under his boots. He frowned. "Dispatch, I'm getting a small shake in the lead axle." Rachel answered instantly. "Reduce speed now. Do not enter Rocky Mountain Tunnel." Ethan looked at the green light ahead. The tunnel entrance was less than 2 miles away. Still cleared. Rachel's voice sharpened. The clearance is false. Slow the train. The radio crackled. Then Barlow's voice cut in. Proceed, Ethan. Rachel turned cold. Chief, don't do this. But the train kept moving. At 11:47 p.m., the Midnight Hudson Express entered Rocky Mountain Tunnel. The radio died. The screen went black. And Rachel's control room exploded with alarms. She moved like her hands already knew the answer before her mind caught up. She pulled the old freight bypass map, a forgotten safety channel from a 1989 tunnel upgrade. If she could not unlock the main emergency grid, she could force the auxiliary drag system from the maintenance relay. One chance. Maybe less. Inside the tunnel, the train lights flickered. Passengers lifted their heads. Mason woke up and whispered, "Mom?" Then the sound came. A deep metallic crack under the floor. Not loud. Worse. Final. Ethan grabbed the brake. Nothing happened. The cab recorder caught his breathing. Brake failure. Brake failure. Then softer, almost broken. Rachel was right. The West Bend rail joint snapped. The train slammed sideways. Sparks ripped along the tunnel wall. Suitcases flew. Coffee cups shattered. The dining car twisted hard enough to throw every plate to the floor. People screamed as emergency lights flashed red through smoke and dust. But the train did not flip. It did not crush at full speed. Because 6 seconds before the worst impact, Rachel's bypass command hit the tunnel drag system. Steel clamps bit the auxiliary rail. The Midnight Hudson Express derailed violently, but slowly enough to live. When the train finally stopped, the tunnel went silent. Then a child cried. Then Laura shouted, "Is anyone bleeding badly? Call out." Judge Helen Morris answered, "I'm alive." Mason's mother held him against her chest. Car by car, voices came through the darkness. Alive. Injured but alive. Here but alive. By sunrise, rescue crews had pulled all 214 passengers from Rocky Mountain Tunnel. Not one person was lost. 3 days later, the federal safety hearing opened in Denver. Ethan Cole sat at the witness table, pale, exhausted, unable to look at Rachel. Walter Barlow sat beside 2 railroad attorneys, wearing a dark suit and the same expression he had worn for years. The expression of a man who believed power was the same thing as truth. Rachel entered with a black folder under her arm. She did not look angry. That made Barlow more nervous. The investigator played the cab recorder. First came Ethan's voice. Chief Barlow said the report was cleared. Then another voice entered. Walter Barlow's. Clear. Undeniable. Ignore the engineer. If that train doesn't move tonight, we lose the federal contract. That maintenance report never existed. The room went dead silent. Barlow's face turned white. One attorney closed his eyes. Ethan lowered his head. Then Rachel opened her folder and placed the original report on the table. The cracked rail photo. The frozen sensor log. The deleted warning. The supervisor lockout. Every lie had a timestamp. The investigator looked at her and asked, "Ms. Hayes, why did you keep fighting after everyone dismissed you?" Rachel looked back at the survivors. Mason was sitting beside his mother, holding the little toy train rescue crews had found in the wreckage. Then Rachel said, "Because a signal didn't lie that night. People did." And for the first time, no one in that room had anything to say. So tell me in the comments, who was more guilty, Ethan who laughed at the warning or Chief Barlow who buried the truth for money? The moral is simple but powerful. Never ignore the quiet person who brings proof. Never dismiss a warning because it comes from someone young, calm, or underestimated. Sometimes the voice everyone laughs at is the only voice standing between ordinary people and disaster. And if this story kept you watching until the end, hit like, subscribe, and comment. Would you have believed Rachel before the crash?